But what I do does require people to want to recenter around humanity, to want to see people, to want to lead with compassion and value and help.
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Pontau. Each week, I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm excited to connect with Chelsea Burns. Chelsea brings a profound understanding of human connection to the evolving landscape of business and entrepreneurship. Her groundbreaking research, published as A Sense of Belonging, Understanding the Female Entrepreneur's Connection to Self and Others, reveals compelling insights to the transformative power of community and belonging, insight she now leverages to help female entrepreneurs thrive. Chelsea is the CEO and founder of the Marketing Psychologist and the co-founder of Mumford & Burns Consulting. She serves as a consultant, coach, and researcher through the lens of marketing psychology. She has a Bachelor's of Arts in Mass Media from Baker University and a Master's of Science in Applied Psychology from the University of Southern California. Congrats on a sense of belonging and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so excited to be here with you today. It's kind of funny sitting here listening to you read a bio about about yourself and just nodding along. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about all things belonging.
Yes, I love the name of your paper. And so tell me more how you got so involved with studying belonging and the impact it has on entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a journey, and it's one of those things where you look back, and they say hindsight's 20/20 for a reason. But at the time, I don't think I really realized the perfect storm that was happening to land where I was at. I was trying to check some boxes. I was in grad school. I needed access to a really niche sample of people for my research, and I knew I wanted it to be around this idea of belonging. I'm going to give a nod to Brene Brown and her work with what she did with shame and authenticity and some of those pieces. And through that had kind of led me through a personal experience with belonging. And at the time, I was a VP of marketing for a global coaching company. We worked with a lot of female entrepreneurs. I had an internship for grad school that also had a large collective of female entrepreneurs. Global reach, and I thought this is going to be a great project. Didn't realize that years later I would still be using this because so little research exists. More and more in sense of belonging, very little in kind of the realm of women, as is the case in a lot of different areas. And so that's kind of what led me there. It's been an interesting journey because at the time, like I said, I was an executive level marketer in a company working with female entrepreneurs. Fast forward a few years, I am now a female entrepreneur myself.
Funny how that works, right?
It all comes full circle. It always does.
And so what is it that you found the impact of that sense of belonging is on female entrepreneurs? What were some of the interesting things your research uncovered?
Yeah, so one of the things I thought was the most fascinating, and probably because of my personal experience, where for years, in probably more subtle ways, I have always been trying to add like applied psychology and things like this into my marketing positions and approaches. And a lot of times there's pushback, right? And people will use maybe the word fluffy or woo-woo, or it's not a tangible thing. And so it feels like it's not directly applicable. But in the research on belonging, what's interesting is that I think, one, it kind of gets overlooked. It was actually in Maslow's hierarchy of needs that he developed in the 60s. And in addition to that, there is research that shows that a sense of belonging is actually just as important to our health, almost to the point of being equivalent to needing food when we think about holistic health. A sense of belonging is critical to our cognitive functioning. It is critical to the actual physiological functioning of our body. there's disease implication, there's mental health issues, all of these things connected as that sense of belonging drops. And I think for me, that was a huge crystallizing moment. I'm not going to call it a finding because it's been there, it exists, but it was almost like, why are we not talking about this more?
Yeah, it's something that I think we're seeing the impact of the lack of a sense of belonging in a lot of people with mental health issues, and just the people not feeling like they're being seen, heard, and understood, and the issues with like workplace dissatisfaction with employees. And there's this, and I agree that people often, especially in more modern marketing, since you can't map it to a metric on a dashboard, it kind of gets overlooked. So we can't easily tie a number to it, so we're not going to focus on it. But the need for people to feel like they have a tribe or have a sense of belonging with a group, or feel like they're it provides that psychological safety that allows them to relax mentally, and also like physiologically. When you're constantly in fight or flight because you don't feel safe, that stress affects your physical health too. So I'm not surprised that you found that impact on the mental and physical health of people when they, based on how much they feel like they belong somewhere.
Yeah, and there's so many little pieces in what you just said to unpack. Like there's,
Oh yeah,
it's like the human brain wants simplicity, right? We absolutely do, which is interesting coming from such a complex thing.
yeah.
And when we think about, people are using psychology in places, but the one hill that I will die on is that marketing and the use of psychology should not be manipulative. And in order for it to not be manipulative, it needs to provide value. There needs to be reciprocity and give and take. As everything in the world with humans, we have relationship with each other, and there needs to be, that relationship exists everywhere. Some of the things that I've noticed, and I've had these conversations where it's like, okay, well, the language we use in business, the language we use in the workplace really strips people of their humanity pretty quick. I mean, if you're in marketing and you're looking at your dashboard, you're not talking about, oh, we have 100 new people who are looking for the value we offer in the world and who we may be able to help. No, we have 100 leads. Are they hot, warm, cold?
Like MQLs, that's because there's not even a full word associated with it. It's just an acronym. And even the it's such a weird way of, in the chase for efficiency or trying to rush to that goal of closing a deal, companies forget that the deal they're making is with another human being, and that human being needs more than just the transaction. The transaction needs to be there for everyone to benefit, but there has to be more than just a sale involved for it to be enough.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think too, so there's probably a handful of companies that do genuinely get lost in the weeds and forget. Unfortunately, I think there's a much larger majority of companies that don't feel like they need to see people as people because they're focused on a bottom line. And that's kind of where the differentiator to me comes in. The work that I do it's not industry specific, it's quite industry agnostic, because show me a business that's not doing business with people who aren't making emotional based decisions. But what I do does require people to want to recenter around humanity, to want to see people, to want to lead with compassion and value and help. And I don't know that that's everywhere. What's interesting though is that all feels really good, right? But we also need to make money. Well, there's a lot of research that shows this actually is directly related to profitability, right? Higher higher trust, highly emotionally engaged consumers, higher profit margin, more revenue. It's there.
Yeah, all the things that companies are struggling with when it comes to closing more deals and keeping the customers they have and reducing employee churn and all these things that cut into the bottom line, cut into the profitability that they're so focused on. If you focus on the humanity and start connecting with people on an emotional level and build relationships, not just transactional ones, then you get all those things, and it's way easier to scale and to build a sustainable business that is more resilient to all the disruptions that are happening in the world and how quickly things can change, because the people that really have an emotional connection won't be as swayed by someone jingling keys with a fancy offer when they actually feel some connection and sense of belonging. They're not going to leave the sense of psychological safety they feel as part of your community for $10 off something they're getting from you. It's like there's much more going on that is complicated and messy and not, again, doesn't fit into a dashboard that companies have forgotten or not prioritized over the past decade or so, and then they're wondering why they're struggling to maintain and attract new customers. And it's like, well, it's the human side you've forgotten about. And so even though if you don't feel like it's necessary, if you want to achieve the goals you care about for your business, then focusing on the human side of things is a great way to do it, and also differentiate yourself from all the people that are not doing it in the marketplace these days.
Oh, absolutely. And because 95% of our decision making happens in the subconscious brain, and because it is all emotionally driven, you're not even, you don't have to play at the tip of the iceberg with that 5%. If you can make them feel that way, you're golden. And you're so right. People are out there. There's so much noise. And let's be honest, we're in turbulent times. I mean, I would argue we're probably always in turbulent times, but there's a lot of unknown, excuse me, shaking up things more than usual right now. And this is the perfect time to use humanity as your differentiator, because people are hungry for that connection. And, familiarity bias shows us that we need to see ourselves in something. Well, wouldn't you want someone, how are you going to see yourself in a brand that's just completely cold and emotionless and AI driven and is an automated funnel and you can't call someone on the phone? Like, all of these pieces, it's pretty inherent. It's not hard. I get a lot of people who are like, oh, well, how do I do this? And there's some frameworks and some things that we can talk about here in a minute. But ultimately, my best advice is just be a person. If you just show up as a person and you operate as a person and you approach your customers as people, that's pretty simple.
And approach them as people first and as MQLs, SQLs later. But reach out with an initial hey, we're feeling like this, I bet you're feeling like this. We're here to help if you want to learn more, and just not even trying to sell right away, but just say, hey, we get how you feel, we see you, we understand, and we feel the same way. Come check us out and let's connect as human beings first. That's going to be a breath of fresh air to another ad popping up saying, buy our stuff, buy our stuff, buy our stuff, from someone they don't have an emotional relationship with yet. And it's not rocket science. It's not anything new. It's just been people have let that skill set atrophy, and it's time to put the reps in and start rebuilding. And it's like anything, when you build those habits up again, it'll become easy again, and you have to be able to willing to put the willpower in to build rebuild those habits, and it'll work. Because it's not like the human brain hasn't changed much in the last 100,000 years. Like, obviously technology and society and everything, the world has changed, but we're still operating on the same basic OS we've been running on since human civilization started. So it's just a matter of relearning how to communicate as human beings, which is the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah. Well, and there's a great book because what you're talking about immediately reminds me of The Human Brand by Chris Malone and Susan Fisk. And what they talk about is this original, the OGOS, the original operating system, right? Where our faces were the first logos and our reputations were the first brands. We lived in villages. We lived in villages for safety and survival. And if you weren't a trustworthy person, or you didn't provide, good services, or you didn't keep that relationship healthy, you would get ostracized from the village. You would be cut off from that community, and your survival would be at risk. Well, fast forward, sure, we're not necessarily competing for food and safety all the time to keep us at our basic level of survival, but people are still doing the same thing. And their point in that book is that people are hardwired to initially sense two particular things: warmth and competence. So basically, we come across each other in all of these different instances, and we're trying to figure out, are you going to be nice to me, or are you going to hurt me? And then we're trying to figure out, are you smart enough to do either one of those two things?
Yeah. It's that simple for getting those initial touch points off. And so, and I'd love to, you mentioned there's some frameworks involved with creating belonging. I'd imagine you have, something tells me you have an awesome framework coming out for us, how to build belonging. I'd love to hear about that and how people, if they're interested in following a framework to help create more belonging around their brand, how they can do that. Can you tell me about that, please?
Yes. So brand spanking new, actually. This morning, I released an article that introduces what I call the Belong framework. And so it offers different steps and guidance for how to approach your marketing that will actually build in belonging throughout it. And I think one of the things that's important to note here is that we're not asking anyone to just go abandon all of their tools and their resources and to never look at numbers again and to never use jargon or lingo again. A lot of this is what I consider pre-strategy. It's before you have a marketing plan. It's guiding that. It's the light that's shining the path to all the things. I use CRMs. I build CRMs. I use funnels. I use language like MQL, SQL. I mean, one of the things that I'm really good at is understanding how much money it takes to put people into each part of the funnel and how long it'll take to convert them based off of their decision-making and their psyche at each of those stages. The difference is using this framework to power all of it, right? And so you have this behavioral science that's mixed in. You have empathy-driven engagement. You're going to leverage nature and neuroscience. Huge believer that nature has so many things to show us and teach us. You're going to have organic strategies because, let's be honest, we're not going to go just pay some algorithm machine to do all of it. We're going to actually own it. We're going to do the narrative and the neuromarketing messaging. So I also have some psychological storytelling resources that break down the neuroscience behind storytelling and metaphor. And then there's going to be this guided transformation. People don't just want a transaction. They want to become the best version of themselves. I've been talking about this in a couple of spaces, and I just recently kind of packaged up this offer. It is my value aspiration identification. So what you're going to notice is that everything that I do, I try to point out the interconnectedness. And so much of business is here's the company, here's the consumer, separate. No. If we're going to be H to H, as you say, there has to be the relationship in the middle. So that bridge for me is the psychology and is the belonging and the humanity. And so that guided transformation is showing people how you're going to allow them become this greater, higher version of themselves. We all buy based off emotion, which most people agree with. What we have to hold space for is that, sure, I go buy the Nike shoes because I like the color and I like the style and they're popular or whatever. And yes, it's also true that they're going to help me be healthy, right? And it's the thing that I'm going to use to like go to the gym and do these things. But the value aspiration is up here. I want to be healthy enough and alive, frankly, to play with my grandkids someday. And these shoes are going to get me there. That's that transformation. That's the value aspiration piece of it. So that's just a quick recap on the Belong framework.
Yeah, we'll definitely include a special highlight of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for connecting with me today, Chelsea. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection Podcast, please like it, leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Chelsea and get access to this awesome framework, please check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.